Hey guys, Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about substat charms in the Forge. So we were talking on stream the other night where we were talking about that the substat charms weren't as good as they advertised because it made it sound like you were getting a lot more opportunity to get the substat charm. You can see here it says, if I use this speed substat charm, I've got a 50% chance that the item will roll speed substat. Now, a while ago, I did a complete Forge video where I broke down all of the different mechanics of the Forge pass, what you should do, the Forge sets, everything about that. And in that video, I actually had to re-record it twice because the first time I recorded it, my understanding of how these worked was incorrect. Now, whenever I do any sort of complicated probabilities, I always get someone like Senti or Short on Skills, people in the community who are very good with this sort of thing, just to double check that I didn't do an oopsie anywhere and I didn't make a mistake in math. And he did point out when I first recorded it that I was incorrectly calculating the substat charms because I was under the impression that I basically had a 50% chance whenever I roll an item to get one of the substat charms as speed. So if it wasn't the first one, then the second one has a 50%, and so on and so forth and so on. That to me is what this text description suggests. But if you go into the crafting chances and you go all the way down here and you look at all the different rules, you basically go and you need to look at these two parts here. So the first part basically determines and shows you how an item is determined in the game engine, in the decision making. So it's saying stats are random and decided in stages. First, the primary stat is decided, then each substat is decided one by one, depending on the rarity of the artifact and how many substats it may have. So we can see up here, obviously weapons can only have 8 substat charms. The chest plate can have 11 substat charms, but with the chest plate, obviously one of the substats could be a primary stat. So technically there's 10 here. Technically there's on the helmet here there's 10 as well, and then there is 8 on the weapon, right? Because we take 1 away from the chest plate, boots and gloves, because one of the substats will be a primary stat and you can't have a primary stat and a substat. So we know it goes the primary first, then the substat afterwards. Each available stat at any stage has an equal odds of being chosen. For example, there are 10 stats available, each has a 10%. So it's equal distribution after the primary stat has been selected. But what I missed originally was this bottom part here. It basically says substat charms increase the odds of getting a specific substat. Makes sense. You'll have a 50% chance of getting your desired stat as the first substat on your artifact. This increased chance applies only to the first substat. The selected substat may be chosen as the primary's artifact stat, in which case it won't be available as a substat. So the first point basically says the only time you get the bonus is on the first roll. The second sentence says if you actually use, say, like a speed substat charm and you get a speed primary stat, then the speed substat charm is consumed and you don't get any benefits because you cannot have the speed, which I think is quite bad in my opinion. I don't really think I should be using resources to get nothing out of it, but that's a whole nother conversation. That's not the topic of this video. And the last bit here, the selected substat will be excluded from the possible substat options from any second, third, or fourth substats the artifact may have, even if not selected as the first substat. So essentially what they're saying with this bottom section, if you use a speed substat charm, you have a 50% chance you're going to get it on the first roll, otherwise you don't get it at all. And if you roll the primary stat as speed, you don't get anything at all either. It really made the substat charms a lot worse than what they should be. Now let me show you a video of the same process happening, but where the substat charm actually appears in a different slot that isn't the first. Now this was sent to me by Crouching Grandpa, who is one of our moderators. We were on a stream talking about it and sent me evidence to show, look, this isn't the case. So you can see here we've got an artifact piece, attack, HP flat, speed at 5 here, and crit rate. But when you watch the video going through here, you'll see that actually this was crafted with a speed substat charm. Now the rules state you can't get that on a different spot. So immediately I was like, okay, this seems off. Maybe there's something going on. So I put a bug report in to Plarium, into the official Discord, spoke with Gremlin, who basically wanted a few details from me. And I got a response back, which is actually game changing. So I'll put the response up on the screen here, but I'll read it out here. Unfortunately, the description given in the game is wrong. Using a charm increases the chances of getting the specified substat in any slot, not only the first. We will update the description later. So that's actually a huge ramification. What they're basically saying is all of this text that we've got down here, which basically says substat charms, blah, blah, is all wrong. Because what it's actually doing is going, okay, you've rolled a legendary piece. So in this instance here, I'm saying I want a crit rate as a substat. You roll a legendary piece. I roll crit damage primary stat as an example. I try to roll crit rate on the first one. I've got a 50% chance it's crit rate, or 50% chance it's one of the other stats. And then if it's not crit rate, my next roll is a 50% chance, and my next roll is a 50% chance, and the fourth roll is a 50% chance. So there's still a chance I don't get crit rate, but the probability of me not having crit rate is incredibly low on a legendary piece. Like, we can do another craft here, see if we can find one more legendary. Crit rate there, flat stats, pretty awful. What else are we going to get? Are we going to get any good pieces? Crit rate here on there, because obviously it's a 50-50 first chance. It's a pretty good chance you're going to get it on the first roll. That's actually quite a decent one probably to keep if it rolls the crit rate. Crit rate, crit damage, actually really good gloves. But so far it's always rolling the first one. It's actually quite, it's easy to force it in essence. But what I wanted to see was if we got a legendary piece, did we always get crit rate on a legendary piece? So there we go. There's the example here. Crit rate rolled on the second stat to show that that is not working. So Plarium are correct. In essence, they're saying there's a 50% chance you can get it on any piece. This is game-changing, really, for the way we were looking at substats. I thought substat charms were actually really terrible. Let me show you a quick math breakdown to explain how much more impact this is going to have when they change the text, or basically how it's working in game. So you can see here, this was the old math that I did. The substat boost changes over on the right here. You would have on a 10, so on sort of like a helmet or mid-roll piece, not a weapon or a shield, you'd basically have a 20% chance on a rare that you'd get the desired substat you want. Say like you wanted speed. It's 20% chance if it doesn't roll primary. On an epic, it becomes 30% because essentially you've got one extra roll. And a legendary, it becomes 40%. Why? Because you've got basically a 4 in 10 chance that one of them is going to be a speed substat. When we boosted it under the old system, where basically the first substat had a 50% chance and then no other substat could, it's actually only 50% chance. So what it meant was the substat charm for a rare roll was actually very good. Why? Because we added 30% chance that the rare piece would roll crit rate. But then you wouldn't really get as much benefit because it's a fixed 50%, right? So when we got a legendary coming out, we're only really getting 10% more, which is better than not, but it wasn't exactly earth-shattering. So now, actually, what it's going to do is go, okay, well, I've got 2 rolls of 50%. So what's the opportunity that I don't get one of them rolling? Well, it's 0.5 times 0.5. So there's a 25% chance that you don't get, say, speed if you use a speed substat charm. That goes up to 87% that you will get it, and then 93%. So basically, if you pull a legendary piece, there's around about a 6% chance that you don't get the substat with the substat charm. So it means that the odds increase go from 150 to 275% chance, 191% chance, and 134% chance increase. So we're just looking at like how much more value is that substat charm giving me? Well, it's over doubling my opportunity to get the substat I want, which basically makes substat charms one of the best ways to force what you want. If you're looking at perception gear and you really want that accuracy, well, you would put the accuracy substat charms because they're really, really valuable. If you want speed on something like Righteous Set, massively good. Crit rate or crit damage on substats on lethal, you should be using your substat charms because actually they're very, very, very good. The way that it's working in game is not the way that it's described in game. The error is in the text description, which actually is a positive for the community because it makes substat charms better than what they talked about. I always used to think substat charms were not good. This math is telling me that if I use a substat charm, I have a 93.75% chance that the legendary piece that I might get has a substat charm in one of the 4 slots, not just the first. Any slot has a 50% chance with that substat. So there you go, guys. Substat charms not working how we thought they were in the game. As confirmed by Plarium, they have said that actually substat charms have a 50% chance to increase the opportunity on any slot of the piece, so long as you don't get it in the primary stat. That still is accurate. If I get a speed boot with speed primary stat, I can't get speed substat even if I've used the speed substat charm. The substat charm does not lock out the primary stat. The primary stat will roll first. But once you get past the primary stat, if you haven't rolled the substat in the primary stat, then you will have a 50% chance on any individual slot. Absolutely crazy. Let me know in the comments below, guys, whether you have been aware of this or whether you think this has been happening for a while, or if this is going to change the way that you play and use the Forge. I certainly will now be using substat charms almost all the time when I am looking at these very high-powered, high-value sets like Lethal, Bolster, Defiant, Righteous, Guardian, potentially. Definitely will be looking for those with substat charms because they are very good sets to actually use my rank and rarity charms. As always as well, make sure you use your rank and rarity charms. They are the better charms as well to get yourself some 6-star gear more than anything else. There you go, guys. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see that text updated in game so that all players are aware about it rather than just the people who watch this video. If you like this type of content, as always, I always say at the end of the video, if you're new to the channel and this is the first video you've caught, please consider giving this channel a subscribe. I do lots of these videos making sure that the game is telling you what it is meant to be doing accurately, and when it's not, bringing awareness to you guys to say, hey, by the way, this isn't accurate the way that it's been described. And in this instance, we can actually make it a positive because this benefits players. This makes the substat charm way good. So if you like this type of content, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, hit the bell notification, all those YouTubey things, and I will catch you guys in the next video.